Ladies and gentlemen, we seek the truth here on this broadcast. David Knight, with his analysis, host of InfoWars Nightly News, is with us. Paul Watson joins us from London, England. And he's been following this throughout the night and this morning, not even sleeping. It was first basically pointed out by German media and then picked up by Zero Hedge and now CBS News. Is saying, why was plane flying over war zone when all other air traffic for months has been directed out of the area? This was the sole plane directed on its flight plan, the Malaysian doomed flight. So the big issue, and it's finally starting to get some traction, which is good, it can stop a larger war, is why was it directed over the war zone? It isn't even about who shot it down. And then there's this kind of rah-rah, Ford versus Chevy, Coke versus Pepsi, Redskins versus the Cowboys idea that I see in the comments on YouTube and Infowars.com going, come on, traitors, get behind a war. Let's have war with Russia. Let's have a war. Hey, they got nuclear weapons, folks. All these Arab countries, whether you love Israel or hate Israel or neutral, that say we're going to push you into the sea and blow you up. Israel's got 800 nuclear weapons. You're not going to do anything. Same thing with Russia. You know what my interests are? The truth, and my kids not being in a nuclear war. Or gas prices not being $5 a gallon. They're racing up right now. Or Christians and innocent Muslims being murdered by Al-Qaeda and ISIS everywhere. Or Saudi Arabia caught red-handed launching chemical attacks on Assad to blame it on him. That came out mainstream news after we broke it and WorldNet Daily broke it and DrudgeReport.com carried our stories. It came out later, months later, that indeed happened. But no one remembers it because the admission is in the back of the paper. Oh, BBC. Yeah, that was, Saudi Arabia and Turkey and NATO staged 3 chemical attacks. The UN even admitted it. I mean, that's bombshell. So, of course, I look at this and say, is NATO involved? But I got to tell you, NATO may not have been involved in the way we think. It's kind of like telling a 2-year-old go play in traffic. Did you kill the 2-year-old? No, you told him. There's like a Yosemite Sam episode that's politically incorrect, so it's been banned off TV. Used to be on YouTube, where he goes and marries a rich widow, but he doesn't know she's got this giant son who he's got to take care of and carry around on his back. It's called X Marks the Spot. And he sits there and goes, now go play fetch. And he throws the ball out in the street, so the giant 2-year-old can go out and get run over. But instead it's Yosemite Sam that gets run over, and he has him, jump in a pool full of alligators. Go swimming, Wentworth. Okay, Daddy. And that's basically it. They know the Malaysian airline doesn't know. It just gets directed by the NATO-run FAA system. FAA's over there over NATO. And they just run him right into there. Or they could have changed the transponder, anything. Bottom line, what do police look at in all criminology developed in England 300 years ago? Scotland Yard, the model of modern policing. You look at who stands to gain the motive. Then you look at the means. You look at the capacity to be able to actually carry it out. Then you look for the evidence of who the most likely suspect is. And surprise, surprise, to quote Gomer Pyle to Sarge, 9 times out of 10, it's who has the motive. That's all I'm saying. And there's a good chance the Russians actually shot this down because they said a week ago, all right, you killed thousands of people the last week. Ukraine brags they did it. You're blowing up whole cities. You're bombing schoolyards. You're blowing up churches. We're going to have targeted responses to it. And they went, really? We're going to start directing airlines right over the zone. Who is to blame? And again, if Russia, it turns out premeditatedly, wanted to shoot down a jet airliner so that Putin looked really bad, and so Russia got sanctions put on them, so that they can have World War III, I will decry Russia. But you're like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would they? Exactly, ladies and gentlemen. Exactly. They don't have a motive. Now, in the next hour, we do have Sorbo coming on for 10 minutes to talk about his film, which is very interesting. He was the guy that played Hercules and the rest of it. Very interesting new Liberty film he's in. But then after that, it's going to be open phones. Open phones right through that hour to give us your take on this. And then Catherine Albrecht is set to be in studio with us. We'll cover the waterfront with her. But David Knight, we're going to go to you in a moment. with the proof of what I was just saying, with the FAA announcements directing U.S. aircraft not to go anywhere in the Crimea. But we also have a European advisory from over a month ago. So we're not just going to say that. We're going to prove it. Because even CBS is like, why were they flying there? No. That's part of the question. The big enchilada is, why were they told to fly over it when the directive to everyone else was, for months, don't do it? See, they don't want you looking at that. And I'll get the emails and the comments. Why do you like Putin? Never been to Russia. I don't have any Slavic blood. I'd be proud of it if I was. Very smart, engineers, smart people. I mean, great classical music. Very interesting culture. I don't have any Slavic blood in me that I know of. Okay, folks? But here's the deal. I don't want to have World War III with them. I just don't know how to explain that to you. I guess I'm an extremist. I'm a bad person. I don't like George Soros bragging a month ago that he ran the whole operation and putting Nazis in to overthrow things. So people are like, but Putin's bad. Whatever. I'm sure Gaddafi wasn't good either. Is Al-Qaeda better? No, they're 10 times worse. The globalists are the ones on the march, folks. So I'm on the march trying to foil destabilization of our world. Because I want prosperity. I don't want Cloward and Piven. I don't want Agenda 21. I'm sorry. I called the guys in and I'm ranting. Paul Watson joining us from England. I know you're going to be writing an article soon that no one's picked up on that David Knight pointed out. Ukraine already shot down a passenger liner. But none of this has gotten any coverage. It was years ago, but when they did it, it didn't try to start World War III. And back then, it was a Western-backed government. But Paul Watson, what do you have for us joining us from London?
Well, that's right, Alex. I mean, you look at the history. 2001, Ukraine admitted it shot down a Russian airliner, killed 78 people. But, you can go back even further. I mean, which country has planned to shoot down commercial airliners to blame on other countries to start wars? 1962 Operation Northwoods, quote, "It is possible to create an incident which will demonstrate convincingly that a Cuban aircraft has attacked and shot down a chartered civil airliner en route from the United States." So they planned it then. 2003 Downing Street memo. The US had a plan to paint up a US military plane in UN colors, fly it over Iraq, get Iraq to shoot it down as a pretext for the invasion of Iraq. And as he said, 2001, Ukraine admitted that it shot down this Russian airliner. So the history proves that the only people who have actually plotted to do this as a casus belli, as a false flag to start a war, is the United States and NATO. And as you were talking about before, July 8th, 10 days ago, Ukraine's state aviation service banned all flights over this very same region, rerouted them around the region. In the previous 10 days to this incident, Malaysian Airlines Flight 17 avoided this very area. The one day it didn't was yesterday, and the maps are in the video that's on Infowars.com that I put out this morning.
Oh, my gosh, print that. I had forgotten about the 2006 February 2nd article where Bush and Blair planned to get a U.S. aircraft or UN aircraft shot down to blame Saddam or to blame others. I mean, they've done this over and over again. Bush-Blair 2003 Iraq memo, they wanted to get, again, a U-2 spy plane shot down in UN colors as a pretext for invasion. We got to go with the headline, U.S. plan to to use aircraft shoot down to start war. I mean, it's just, they just do it over and over again, Paul. But we're not, according to the Boston Globe, we're not supposed to question anything. We're just supposed to believe whatever they say.
Well, they always try and seize the narrative immediately, the mainstream media, and then anybody else that has any speculation whatsoever, they're bad, they're evil. Another aspect which is interesting is there were panicked tweets from this civil aviation, this air controller who was in the tower at Kiev Borispol Airport when this incident went down. And he claimed, again, this is not confirmed, but he said 3 minutes before the radar tower lost contact with the Malaysian Airlines plane, it had Ukrainian fighter jets surrounding it. He says that Kiev shot it down. He said there were people, Kiev authorities immediately rushed up to the control tower, basically threatened them all, told them to shut up. He was panicking, tweeting all this out. Of course, his Twitter account's been shut down. But he was in the actual control tower saying, this is Kiev that shot the plane down. They're threatening us, and then he went.
And who controls Twitter but the CIA and the State Department on record with the Library of Congress, and notice they were in the headline Monday saying, we don't want to let ISIS be kicked off Twitter. Let them recruit on there. So ISIS, with all these heat-seeking missiles, is allowed to be on Twitter. But the people in Ukraine who are reporting what happened, they're not allowed to be.
And the other issue, Alex, is U.S. says evidence points to pro-Russia separatists in destruction of Malaysian plane. It's New York Times headline. So now they're saying that these rebels had access to the Buk missile system, which is the only missile system in that region that could have shot down this plane. That's not what Ukraine's prosecutor general said immediately after the incident, according to the BBC. The military, the Ukrainian military, told the president after the passenger plane had been shot down that the terrorists did not possess our Buk missile systems. So this whole premise is based around the notion that these separatists had access to this sophisticated radar missile system. Ukraine's own prosecutor general said today the military told the president, the Ukrainian president, the separatists did not have access to this missile system.
And let's expand on that. Only the Russian government had it and the Ukraine government had it back when they were Russian allies. But similar surface-to-air SAMs that go above 30,000 feet have been around since the 50s and in the U.S. and in Russia. And it's just a fact that our fighter pilots in Vietnam dealt with this from '64 on, and that these weapon systems have been sold to everybody. I mean, every major state has these. So to claim that only Russia had this, and so it must be Russia, is just pure bull. The fact that Russia has had a denial, but I don't think a strong enough denial, makes me think they might have been fooled into shooting it down. I'm not saying that because I don't think we know enough yet. But the fact that they were not allowed to fly through that area under European FAA and EU controls, and now this lone aircraft did, and this comes on the heels of the escalation. I think it's very suspicious. Well, I'm going to come back to you, Paul Watson. I know you've got more, but this is really big. Let's detail the actual sources on this from the EU and the FAA on the bans that took place in the last few months in that sector where this plane was directed to fly.
Alex, the FAA put out a statement, a press release today, reminding people that back on April 3rd, and we covered this last night in the Nightly News. I mean, we already knew this. We covered it last night, but they reinforced it today, saying back on April 3rd, the FAA issued a notice to airmen. And what that notice is, I've got the notice right here, it is a special federal aviation regulation prohibiting all aircraft, U.S. commercial operators from entering that space, anybody that has a certificate issued by the FAA, and all operators of any U.S. registered aircraft. The only exceptions they give, of course, are to U.S. government-sponsored operations and activities. But basically, this is a blanket prohibition. And at the same time, the UN did the same thing through the International Civil Aviation Organization. On April 3rd, they also warned all airlines to avoid that area. Now, we covered this last night, and one of the things, as you guys were just talking about, the Buk missiles.
And by the way, it was an order. I mean, you lose your license if you fly over where they say. I mean, my dad's a pilot.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd be coming up against huge, deadly storms. He'd have to land at some airfield because he couldn't go around the storm and couldn't fly over a military base.
That's right.
I mean, you don't fly over these designated areas.
That's right. It's a regulation. It's a prohibition. Now, one of the things we're talking about, this missile system, remember that back in October 2001, when the Ukrainian government actually did shoot down an airliner, they said it was by mistake because they were having naval operations, very similar actually to TWA Flight 800, what people believe happened with that. And even though we covered this last night, even though there were over 750 eyewitnesses to that attack, including pilots, people on the ground said they saw a missile, the CIA and the FBI went around and confiscated all that information. Well, it was about a year ago that this all surfaced on the news because that documentary came out about that. And actually, Anderson Cooper on CNN had said, you know, this is the 1 year, this is the anniversary. It was in 1996, but it was on July 17th that the TWA Flight 800 was shot down. He said that, and then he had to do a retraction. So we played that retraction. Said, no, I didn't mean to say it was shot down. Actually, the fuel tank blew up, and that caused it to blow up.
And by the way, mainline reporters snuck in, tested it. It was hit by continuous rod warhead, as General Parton, who developed the weapon, said on my show back at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And it's well known that that aircraft was blown up during a naval drill.
Yeah.
And they had over 1,000 men and women on helicopters and ships who they had to gag in the military.
Yes.
It was it wasn't just Navy involved, who saw multiple missile trails.
Yes, yes.
I mean, they blew the plane up in front of thousands.
And you've got national traffic safety investigators said that they were lied to by the FBI. You got others who said that they got evidence that there were explosives.
But you're not supposed to question that.
That's right.
I mean, it doesn't matter if the people on the ships and the helicopters all saw it. It doesn't matter if General Parton said that, you know, they saw the photos of the reconstructed plane. It was he could see where the missile hit.
Yes. Yes, but that was done with a different kind of missile. They don't need to have a Buk missile. That was done with an SS-20.
No. Only Buk missiles.
Yeah.
Only Buk missiles.
All about that on CNN. They kept showing all the stats about it.
Only Russia can shoot down aircraft.
That's right.
No one else.
Right.
No one. Not England, not France, not the U.S., not Japan, not China, not South Africa, not Al-Qaeda. Only Russia can shoot down aircraft, or you're a traitor, David Knight.
Hi, I'm Dr. Edward Group. Today I'd like to talk about the war on women. You've experienced and heard about the benefits of super male vitality. Now, the new formula has arrived. Introducing the new Super Female Vitality. I have specifically designed this formula to help the body naturally regulate itself without the use of artificial hormones. Key ingredients chosen from the highest quality sources. Each of these ingredients works synergistically with the female body in order to maximize overall vitality. You've heard the reviews and the feedback on how the original Super Male Vitality has revitalized relationships. Now, both the man and the woman can have the revitalization in their own bodies with Super Male Vitality and Super Female Vitality. Secure your Super Female Vitality today from our limited stock at InfoWarsLife.com.
Under international law and common law, Western-backed globalists overthrew Ukraine, triggering this crisis, and are behind the shoot-down of the aircraft one way or another because it wasn't a war zone, and they directed the aircraft into the area. That's just a fact. Those of you that want to blame Russia, who's not the aggressor in all of this, didn't start the fight, you are fools being played by George Soros, Obama, the globalist, the UN. Now, I want to go to this clip before we go back to Paul Watson and David Knight. This is John Busey today on Fox News with from the Wall Street Journal managing editor on Fox saying Americans will thank the NSA now because they record all the phone calls. I thought that wasn't the case. And they'll find out who really did this. You mean plant whatever they want? I mean, they plant DNA on people all the time. DNA isn't proof of jack diddly squat when the system's run by evil people. So here's the Orwellian clip of now the omnipresent state will solve everything for you. The people caught staging the chemical attacks in Syria and saying only the Syrians had these chemicals, and it turned out it was Saudi Arabia. Let's go to this clip.
That's the latest data points. At the end of the day, this is a time where the citizens around the world are going to be very happy for the NSA because they're going to be scarfing up these telephone calls. They're going to be able to analyze this data. They'll be able to determine, most likely, some of the communications that went on after the crash happened, which will probably clarify the picture in the days to come.
They're going to be scarfing it up. How do they do that? No. They record it live. Basically everything. Okay. All right, let's just get that straight. Paul Watson, other points. We got one more segment with you and David Knight coming up, but other points you haven't gotten to yet with your cutting-edge analysis at prisonplanet.com.
Well, just to put it into context, this incident occurred literally 2 days after Putin and the rest of the BRICS countries announced basically the birth of this alternative to the IMF and the World Bank, this anti-dollar alliance, which directly threatens the unipolar world led by the US and NATO, the New World Order. It also arrives a day after, literally 24 hours after, the Ukrainian forces in that very region were absolutely getting their hind end kicked by these separatist rebels, suffering huge, heavy casualties. Then they have this convenient incident. And of course, the sanctions against Russia have been a complete failure. The Russian stock market has skyrocketed in recent weeks as the US stock market has tailed off. So in terms of cui bono, I mean, all the motivation, all the momentum was going towards Russia getting the upper hand, the separatists getting the upper hand in this conflict with Ukraine, and then this happens.
And for those that don't know Latin, cui bono means who stands to gain, motive. Absolutely key. David Knight, don't even other points. What's coming up in the next segment?
Well, Alex, I was really amazed at how the mainstream media was pushing these conspiracy theories immediately. Immediately they knew.
Within minutes, the Russians did it. Alex Jones here to break down some exciting developments in the area of research concerning supplemental iodine. It's nothing less than phenomenal. I began to get into iodine a few years ago because it was helping me and my family so much get healthy and detoxify. And I used some of the mainline iodine supplements and they upset my stomach and I had some issues with it. Until I discovered a product being developed by Dr. Group, who I was already interviewing as an expert on my radio show, and I began taking the product before he actually rolled it out. You now know it as Survival Shield True Nascent Iodine that your body can really absorb. Then, about a year ago, he said, listen, if you think this is powerful, I'm going to come out with rare earth, deep earth crystals that are incredibly powerful that no one else has as a source for their iodine from between 7,000 and 12,000 feet, literally drilled out of the ground. You put it on a hot plate and it turns into the pure gas. No one else has 99.99% pure iodine. And the results that I personally have had have been life-changing. I was over 270 pounds. And with the iodine, exercise, and better diet, I have lost now more than 50 pounds total, and I'm continuing to lose the weight. I have more energy, my libido, all this crap came out of my skin. I believe our research is conclusive. This is the best iodine out there. And I know this for a fact. Nobody else has got iodine based on these pure crystals, ladies and gentlemen. This is innovating. This is trailblazing. And the best part is it helps fund Infowars.com, the radio show, the TV show, the whole media operation promoting true libertarian ideas. For a limited time, experience the ancient power of Survival Shield X2. Take advantage of this unprecedented 30% off Super Detox special at InfoWarsLife.com.